A businesswoman is secretly following one of her employees. She is shocked when she sees what he is up to. This woman is a successful entrepreneur. She owns one of the biggest companies in the city. She's known for being strict and disciplined. Her employees respect her. But some fear her. Recently, she noticed that one of her employees had been acting suspicious. He often left work early and sometimes didn't show up at all. When questioned, he gave vague excuses. The woman decided to find out what was going on. One day, she followed him after he left work. He didn't go home. Instead, he took a bus to a different part of the city. The woman kept her distance. She watched as he walked through alleyways and narrow streets. He finally stopped in front of an old building. It looked abandoned, but he went inside. The woman hesitated. Then she decided to go in as well. What she saw shocked her. Inside the building were several children, sitting on the floor. The man, her employee, was teaching them. He was explaining math, using simple tools. The children listened intently. They looked happy and eager to learn. The woman stood in the shadows. She couldn't believe what she was seeing. After the class, the man gave the kids some food. It wasn't much, but it was enough. The children thanked him and left. The woman stepped forward. The man was startled. He asked if she had followed him. She nodded. He looked ashamed. He said he didn't mean to lie, but he couldn't risk losing his job. He explained that he had grown up in a poor neighborhood. He never had access to education. Now, he wanted to help others. The woman was silent. Then, she said something that surprised him. She told him that he wouldn't lose his job. In fact, she wanted to support his cause. She offered to fund the school. She said education was important and everyone deserved a chance. The man was overwhelmed. He thanked her. Over time, they transformed the old building into a real school. More children came. They hired teachers. The businesswoman visited often. She realized that success wasn't just about money. It was also about making a difference. Her company thrived even more. Employees were proud to work there. They saw that their boss cared. The man continued to teach. He was happy. And the children had a future. All because one woman decided to follow her instincts. Sometimes the truth surprises us. And sometimes it changes everything. She wasn't always this way. Years ago, she struggled. She worked hard to build her business. She faced rejection, failure, and betrayal. But she never gave up. Her story inspired many. Yet, success can change people. She became strict, focused only on results. She forgot where she came from. Until she saw her employee's secret. It reminded her of her younger self. She remembered the nights she spent studying by candlelight. The times she went hungry just to save money for her education. That memory lit a fire in her again. She started new programs at her company. Scholarships for employees' children. Volunteering days. Workshops for skill development. Her office became more than a workplace. It became a community. Other companies followed her lead. A movement began. People realized that business and kindness could go together. The city changed. More children went to school. Crime rates dropped. Families had hope. And it all started with one man and one woman who chose to care. The school grew rapidly. They needed more space. So, the woman donated land to build a proper campus. Architects designed classrooms, playgrounds, and libraries. Donations poured in. The media covered their story. The man, once shy and quiet, became a public speaker. He spoke about hope and change. He said, "One act of kindness can create a wave." People listened. They donated. They volunteered. The children thrived. Many of them wanted to become teachers, doctors, engineers. They had dreams now. They had role models. The woman became a mentor. She spent weekends at the school. She read stories, helped with lessons, and shared her journey. The children adored her. They called her Big Sister. She smiled more than ever. Her heart felt full. The man was no longer just an employee. He was a partner in change. Together, they built something that would last. Something that mattered. But it wasn't always easy. Some people criticized her. They said she should focus on her business. Some shareholders worried. They feared that profits would fall. But the woman stayed firm. She believed that good values create strong foundations. Over time, even the critics changed their minds. The company's reputation soared. Customers trusted them. Investors returned. Employees worked harder, knowing they were part of something meaningful. It became a new model of business. One where purpose and profit walked hand in hand. Years later, the woman looked back. She was older now, but still strong. The school had become a chain. Thousands of children learned under its roof. The man had written books. He trained teachers. He led seminars for youth leaders. The woman received awards. But she always said the biggest reward was seeing a child smile with a book in hand. She never forgot that day when she followed an employee. It had changed her life. And countless others. One afternoon, she visited the school again. A young girl ran up to her. She hugged her tightly. The woman smiled. The girl said, "I want to be like you when I grow up." The woman kneeled, looked her in the eyes, and said, "Be better. Change the world, your way." The girl nodded. Hope shined in her eyes. And just like that, a new story began. Because change is a ripple. And sometimes, it starts in the most unexpected way. The woman eventually retired, but her legacy lived on. She set up a foundation to fund education across the country. The man, now a leader, expanded their vision. They built schools in remote villages. They provided clean water, healthcare, and food. Every time they saw a child pick up a pencil, they knew it was worth it. The employees at the company took pride in their mission. Many of them volunteered on weekends. Some became teachers too. They realized success isn't measured only in salaries, but in smiles, in dreams fulfilled, in futures changed. And it all started because one person decided to care, to ask questions, to follow the truth, to take a chance on someone else's story. The woman had once said, "Leadership is not about control. It's about compassion." That line was now printed on every wall of the school. A reminder to lead with heart. And to never forget where we come from. The story continues. With every child who learns. With every teacher who gives. With every leader who listens. The world needs more stories like this. Stories of courage, kindness, and connection. Because, in the end, we're all connected. Our actions affect others. A simple choice can create a ripple. That ripple can become a wave. And that wave can change the world. One morning, the man stood before a crowd. The auditorium was filled with students, teachers, parents, and community leaders. He cleared his throat and began to speak. Years ago, he said, I was just a worker. Quiet, unnoticed, and unsure of my future. But someone saw something in me. Someone believed. The audience listened, in silence. That belief, he continued, changed my life. And today, I stand here, not just as a teacher, but as proof that change is possible. That anyone, from anywhere, can rise. Applause filled the room. His eyes found the woman, sitting in the front row. She nodded, her eyes moist. Pride glowed on her face. After the speech, a young boy approached him. He looked nervous, clutching a notebook. Sir, he said, I want to be like you. The man smiled gently. Then start, he replied. Start small, start now. And never stop learning. The boy nodded, with determination. The man placed a hand on his shoulder. We believe in you. The woman walked through the school halls. Artwork lined the walls. Poems, drawings, and dreams written in crayon. One said, I want to be a doctor, so I can help my village. Another read, I want to build houses for people. She stopped to admire a picture of a rocket, with the words, one day, I'll touch the stars. Her heart swelled. She thought, this is the future. The school also had a music room, where children played instruments. Some had never touched a piano before. Others sang in choirs, harmonizing with joy. They held concerts, for the community. Parents came, sometimes teary-eyed, to see their children shine. One girl wrote her own song. She performed it, with confidence. The lyrics spoke of hope, of light in the darkness. The audience stood, clapping, some wiping their tears. It wasn't just a song. It was a story. Her story. The school became a hub, not just for education, but for healing. Many of the children had faced hardships. Poverty, loss, even trauma. The woman ensured there were counselors. Safe spaces. Warm meals. A place to feel seen. To feel safe. The children began to bloom. One boy, who never spoke, began to read aloud. Another, who always sat alone, started helping others with homework. A girl who used to cry, now danced freely, in the courtyard. The change was visible. Outside the city, in the villages, the foundation worked tirelessly. They built solar-powered classrooms. Shipped books, where there were none. Trained local teachers. Held workshops, for parents. In one village, a grandmother cried, when she saw her granddaughter write her name, for the first time. I never thought, she said, this day would come. They hugged tightly, their joy echoing through the fields. The woman continued to fund new projects. Health camps. Mobile libraries. Computer labs. She met with world leaders. She spoke at global summits. She said, if we want a better future, we must invest in children. Not just in cities, but everywhere. Her words were shared, across media, inspiring millions. Meanwhile, the man started a program, to train former students as mentors. The idea was simple, those who had received, would now give back. It worked beautifully. Young adults returned to their schools, shared their journeys, taught classes, guided the younger ones. It created a cycle of hope. A culture, of giving. One day, during a festival at the school, the woman and the man sat together, watching the performances. Children danced, acted in plays, recited poems. The finale was a drama, based on the man's life. A boy played his younger self. The story showed his struggles, his night classes, and his secret teaching. When the scene came, where the woman discovered the children, the audience fell silent. Then erupted in applause. When it ended, everyone stood. The woman and the man had tears in their eyes. The children bowed. It was more than a play. It was a tribute. A thank you. Later that night, the woman sat in her office, reflecting. A photo of the school was on her desk. She thought about legacy. About what we leave behind. Buildings fade. Money moves. But impact lasts. She wrote in her journal, "The greatest success is helping others rise." Years passed. Generations changed. The school became an institution. It had alumni, who became leaders, artists, scientists. Some worked abroad, some returned to teach. The story spread globally. Other countries replicated the model. Foundations were built. Networks created. The ripple had become a wave. In a quiet ceremony, the main campus was renamed. It now bore the name of both the man and the woman. Their story was engraved on a wall, for every visitor to read. Children walked past it every day, inspired by what two people, with vision and heart, could do. The man, once humble and hesitant, now walked with quiet confidence. He still taught classes. Still greeted every child, by name. Still brought snacks, on Fridays. The woman, though retired, visited often. She read stories, checked in on projects, and hugged every child who ran to her. They were family. One morning, a journalist asked the woman, "Do you ever miss the corporate world?" She smiled. "I'm still building," she said. "But now, I build lives." At the end of each school year, they held a graduation ceremony. Parents came dressed in their best. Students wore caps and gowns. One year, the keynote speaker was a former student. She stood on stage, holding her medical degree. "I was once a child, in that abandoned building," she said. "Today, I'm a doctor. Because someone believed in me." The audience rose. Tears and cheers followed. The woman and the man held hands. The journey had come full circle. They didn't do it for fame. Or money. Or awards. They did it, because they believed. In education. In kindness. In change. And that belief changed the world. One evening, as the sun set over the schoolyard, the woman sat on a bench, watching the children play. Laughter filled the air. She closed her eyes, took a deep breath. "This," she thought, "is peace." And the story continues. Every day. With every lesson. Every smile. Every act of kindness. The seeds they planted will keep growing. For generations to come. Because when we choose to care. When we choose to act. We don't just change one life. We change the world. The seasons changed, but the mission remained. Spring brought flowers to the school garden. Children planted seeds, watered them daily, watched them grow. "Just like us," one little girl said. "We're growing too." The woman heard that, and smiled. She wrote it in her notebook. A reminder that the smallest voices sometimes say the biggest things. Summer brought heat, but also excitement. Summer camps were held. Science fairs, art exhibitions, storytelling circles. One child built a windmill, using scraps. Another made a solar cooker. "We can use this in our village," he said proudly. Innovation, fueled by hope. Encouraged by teachers, who cared deeply. Autumn came, with golden leaves, and exam season. The halls buzzed with energy. Study groups, motivational speeches, extra tutoring. No child was left behind. Teachers stayed late. Volunteers arrived. The woman visited each classroom, offering snacks and encouragement. "You're doing great," she whispered. "Keep going." And they did. Winter brought the annual book festival. Authors came, read their stories aloud. Children wrote their own books. They signed them, gave them to their friends. A boy wrote a story, called The Light in the Alley. It was about a teacher, who found a way to teach, even when no one believed in him. The woman read it, her hands trembling. It was about the man. About the beginning. The school celebrated more than just academics. They celebrated kindness. Every week, a kindness star was chosen. A student who helped others. Shared lunch. Stood up for a friend. It became a tradition. Children learned that being kind was just as important as being smart. Parents noticed the difference. Their children came home happier. More confident. More curious. "They ask so many questions now," one father laughed. "I love it." Another mother said, "My son wants to be a writer. I never thought that was possible." Hope was spreading. In the foundation's offices, walls were filled with maps. Dots marked every school built, every village reached. Behind each dot was a story. A family. A dream. Volunteers shared their experiences. One said, "I went to teach, but I ended up learning." Another said, "I came to give, but I received even more." The man and the woman worked behind the scenes. They didn't need spotlights. Their joy came from watching others shine. Every success story, every graduation, every smile, was their reward. They often met in the evenings, sipping tea, sharing updates. "Did you hear about the student who built a drone?" "Yes." "Incredible." Their laughter filled the room. Two friends, on a mission. They remembered every child. Every challenge. Every milestone. The time the roof leaked, and they fixed it overnight. The day the library opened. The first computer lab. The first girl to go to college. The first boy to win a national award. These memories were treasures. As the years passed, more leaders joined the cause. Former students, now adults, took charge. They brought fresh ideas. Started digital classrooms. Developed apps for learning in remote areas. The mission evolved, but the heart remained the same. Education, compassion, community. One young leader proposed a new idea. A mobile learning van. Equipped with books, tablets, internet. It would reach places where schools couldn't yet be built. The woman loved the idea. "Let's do it," she said. Within months, the van was ready. It drove into mountain villages, deserts, remote islands. Children ran to it, eyes wide with wonder. Learning had arrived, on wheels. Another group started evening classes, for adults. Many parents of the children had never gone to school. Now they sat in rows, learning letters, numbers, even poetry. One elderly man recited a poem he wrote. Everyone clapped. "It's never too late," he said. Never. The woman was invited to speak at international forums. She shared their story. People listened, amazed. Some cried. Some pledged support. Governments took notice. Policies were inspired. But the woman always said, "We started with one child. One act of curiosity. Anyone can do the same." She was given many awards. But she often handed them to the children. "This belongs to you," she'd say. "You're the reason." At one ceremony, a young girl stood beside her. "She helped me become who I am," the girl said. The audience stood in applause. The woman held the girl close. "And you," she whispered, "are why I keep going." The man, humble as always, kept teaching. He now trained new teachers. Shared his methods. His passion. He said, teaching is lighting a flame, not filling a bucket. His words were quoted everywhere. Painted on walls. Printed on posters. Etched into memory. They faced setbacks too. Floods damaged one school. A fire broke out at another. Funding delayed. Critics rose. But they never stopped. They rebuilt. They asked for help. And help came. Because the world had seen what they could do. What they stood for. One day, they were invited to a global summit. To present their journey. They stood on stage together. The man spoke first. I was once invisible. But someone saw me. The woman added, we don't need heroes. We need believers. The room erupted in standing ovation. They returned home, not with pride, but with purpose. More work to do. More children to reach. We're just getting started, the woman said. And she meant it. One snowy evening, a child wrote a letter. It read, Dear Big Sister. I don't know what I want to be yet. But I know I want to help people. Just like you. Love. Ria. The woman framed it. Hung it by her desk. Every time she looked at it, she smiled. Because that was the real success. In a small town by the river, a new school opened. The children gathered outside, eyes sparkling, waiting for the ribbon to be cut. The woman stood at the front, scissors in hand. This isn't just a building, she said. It's a beginning. The ribbon fell. Cheers rang out. Another light had been lit. Inside, the walls were painted with murals. Stories of courage, of learning, of kindness. There were no trophies in glass cases, but there were shelves filled with books, drawings, and letters from children. This was a place of dreams. A place of belonging. One wall had a quote, written in bold colors. Every child is a story waiting to be told. And underneath it, pictures of children from all over, laughing, learning, living. The man came to visit. He walked into a classroom, where a little boy was reciting a poem. Do you like poetry? He asked. The boy nodded. I write sometimes, he whispered. But I'm scared it's not good. The man knelt beside him. All great poems start with a whisper, he said. Just right. The boy smiled. A new poet was born that day. That school became a place where creativity was nurtured. They had painting days, storytelling competitions, build-your-own invention weeks. Children brought ideas. Teachers helped bring them to life. One girl created a rainwater filter for her village. She was 10. I just wanted to help my grandma, she said. The woman kept traveling. Not for vacations, but for vision. She visited war-torn regions, refugee camps, neglected communities. Everywhere she went, she asked one question, what do the children need? She listened. She learned. She built. In one country, she met a boy who had lost everything. He didn't speak. Didn't smile. But one afternoon, he picked up a paintbrush. And he painted a sun. A bright, yellow sun. It was the first thing he'd drawn in years. The woman framed it. Hope, she said. Always begins again. She returned with new ideas. Healing through art. Storytelling therapy. Music as medicine. Programs were designed. Lives were touched. She often said, healing isn't separate from learning. It is learning. One of her favorite things was, Letters from Tomorrow. A project where children wrote letters from the future, describing the world they dreamed of. In my world, one child wrote, no one is hungry. Another wrote, we all go to school together, boys and girls. These letters were collected, published, and shared across the world. People began to send letters back. Authors, scientists, musicians, even astronauts. Dear Arjun, one letter read, I read your dream about flying cars. I work on real ones. Keep dreaming. The connection sparked imagination. Children began to believe, truly, that anything was possible. The man loved math. He often said, it teaches us to solve problems. Just like life. He created puzzles, games, even rap songs about formulas. Kids who once feared math, now competed in math relays. One boy who struggled with numbers, eventually invented a math app. It became popular across the country. He credited his teacher. He never gave up on me, he said. Even when I gave up on myself. The woman believed in balance. Mind, body, spirit. So, they introduced yoga sessions. Meditation. Nature walks. They planted trees with students. Adopted animals. One school even had a kindness garden, where students wrote good deeds on stones and placed them around plants. A new student arrived from a troubled background. Angry, withdrawn. But he was given patience, care, consistency. Weeks later, he wrote a story about a lion who found his roar. That's me, he said. And everyone clapped. The foundation partnered with universities, tech companies, health organizations. They created scholarships. Launched online learning platforms. Designed tools for children with disabilities. One blind girl learned coding using sound-based software. She now teaches others. I thought I couldn't, she said, but now I help others say, I can. The woman wrote a book. Not about her life, but about the children. Each chapter told a real story. Joy, struggle, triumph. It was called The Classroom Without Walls. It became a bestseller. But she always said, the children wrote it. I just held the pen. Film studios wanted to make movies. She agreed, only if the children could act in them. They did. One film won an award. At the ceremony, a child held the trophy and said, this is for all the quiet kids. The ones people forget. We see you. They started a pen pal program. Children from different countries wrote to each other. Shared stories, drawings, dreams. Now I have a friend in another world, one child said. And he likes the same cartoons. Connections grew. Empathy deepened. Borders blurred. A girl once asked the woman, what's your favorite part of your job? She replied, when someone tells me they didn't think they mattered, and then they realize they do. The man retired officially, but he never stopped teaching. Every Sunday, he held learning under the tree, in the schoolyard. Children gathered. He told stories. Solved riddles. Shared snacks. They called him Grand Teacher. The woman kept building. But she also began mentoring others. She said, one day, I will step away. And you will take the lead. Her mentors were from every background. Young, old, urban, rural. But they all had one thing in common, they cared. At the 25th anniversary of the foundation, there was a massive celebration. Not in a ballroom, but in a field. With tents, laughter, music, and memories. Former students returned. Some with their own children. They shared stories of where they had gone, what they had become. Doctors, dancers, engineers, poets. One young man said, I was supposed to be a statistic. But because of you, I became a story. The crowd wept. The woman hugged him. And what a story you are, she said. In a quiet corner, the man and the woman sat, side by side. Watching the sunset. Listening to laughter. Do you remember the alley? He asked. She nodded. That was the beginning, she whispered. And look where we are now. He smiled. We didn't just teach lessons, he said. We lived them. They never planned for recognition. But they received it anyway. Documentaries were made. Awards were presented. Buildings were named after them. But they always redirected the spotlight. This belongs to the children, they would say. And it truly did. A teacher once asked the woman, "What's the secret?" She paused. Then said, "Believe in them, before they believe in themselves." That became a mantra, repeated in every training session, every staff meeting, every new school. As their story spread, more people came to learn. From different countries, cultures, and contexts. Some stayed, to help. Others returned home, inspired to replicate the model. We may not be able to change the whole world, one volunteer said, but we can change a world. One child at a time. In the northern hills, where roads disappeared into the sky, a new project was born. A school powered entirely by renewable energy. The students helped design it. Built solar panels. Created insulation from local materials. It became a model for sustainability and learning combined. One morning, after a snowfall, the children built snow sculptures, not of snowmen, but of scientists, authors, musicians. They're our heroes, they said. One sculpture was of the woman. She blushed. You made me look so tall. They all laughed. Back in the city, a new initiative started, the listening bus. A mobile space with counselors, quiet corners, journals, music. It parked outside schools, giving students a place to talk, or just be. Sometimes, the woman said, the most powerful thing you can say is, "I hear you." The man, though older now, still carried a spark in his eyes. He began mentoring boys who were on the edge, troubled, angry, unsure. He didn't lecture them. He played chess. Took long walks. Shared his own pain. One boy said, he saw the broken parts of me, and still said I was whole. The alumni network grew. Former students built apps for emergency education. Others became mental health advocates. One founded a platform connecting rural students with international mentors. Because we were given wings, he said, now we give others the sky. The woman introduced a new idea, the Voice Project. Every child recorded a 1-minute message, about anything. Some talked about dreams. Others about loss. Some sang. Some shouted. These recordings were broadcast on a radio channel, reaching thousands. Now I know, a child said, my voice matters. In one desert village, where temperatures soared and water was scarce, they built a school underground. Cool, calm, and creative. Murals lit the walls. Poems echoed off the stone. A girl who had never seen the sea painted waves across her classroom. One day, she said, I'll go there. A boy in a wheelchair built a drone to deliver medicines to his village. He named it Hope Fly. The drone program expanded, becoming a national model. The boy now trains others. He often says, when my legs couldn't move, my mind did. The woman launched a School of Dreams program, where every week, students explored one big question. What if animals could talk? What would the world look like in 100 years? How can we fix loneliness? The answers were turned into books. Songs. Plays. The questions mattered, even more than the answers. They created a wall of wishes. Students wrote their biggest hopes. Some simple, I want a puppy. Some profound, I want my dad to come home from war. Visitors read them. And many made them come true. One wish read, I want to see my favorite teacher smile again. The teacher had lost her husband. The community came together. Held a surprise celebration. She smiled through tears. You gave me back my heart, she whispered. The woman visited prisons too. Worked with young offenders. Started a learning circle called Rewrite. One boy, serving time for theft, wrote a poem about forgiveness. It was just a jacket, it ended. But it cost me my warmth. The poem was published. He got a scholarship after release. A dance therapy program began. For trauma healing. Children danced barefoot in circles, under trees. Laughing. Crying. Healing. One child said, "When I dance, I remember how light feels." The woman received a letter one day. It read, "You don't know me. But I heard a story you told. About a boy in a village. It reminded me of myself. I wanted to end my life. But now I teach kids like me. Thank you." It was unsigned. But it meant everything. The foundation grew, but stayed personal. Every new staff member wrote a why letter. Why they joined. Why they cared. These letters were read aloud every Friday. One janitor wrote, "Because I clean classrooms where miracles happen." Everyone stood and clapped. The woman kept all the letters she ever received. Stored them in boxes labeled love. When asked why she never threw them away, she said, "Because when days get dark, I read them. And the light returns." The man passed away quietly, on a Sunday morning. The children planted a tree in his honor. Called it Wisdom. Underneath, a plaque read, "He taught us how to see the stars, even in daylight." At the memorial, the woman spoke, "He didn't just teach us how to read. He taught us how to be. And we will carry him, always." She took time to grieve. Walked more. Wrote more. Sat quietly among the children. Let their voices fill the space where his once echoed. Slowly, joy returned. Because she knew, he would have wanted it that way. One day, she sat with a girl who had just learned to write. "I want to write stories like you," the girl said. The woman smiled. "Then you must listen," she said. "To your heart. To others. To the silence between words. That's where stories live." Years passed. The schools thrived. New leaders emerged. The woman, older now, still visited. Still listened. Still believed. One afternoon, she sat under the wisdom tree, a group of children around her. One asked, "What do you want us to remember most?" She paused. Then said, "That you are enough. Right now. As you are. You don't have to earn your worth. Just share your light." Another child raised their hand. "What if we forget?" The woman smiled gently. "Then look into someone's eyes," she said. "You'll see it reflected back. Kindness. Hope. Wonder. That's what we're made of." She stood slowly. The sun was setting. The children stood too. Not because she asked them to, but because they knew, they were in the presence of someone who saw the world not for what it was, but for what it could be. That evening, she wrote in her journal. Just one sentence. "They will carry the fire now." And they did. Years later, one of the children, now grown, stood on a stage in front of thousands. "She gave me a pencil," he said, holding it high. "But more than that, she gave me the belief that my words mattered." The crowd rose to its feet. The applause thundered. And in the front row, the woman, older now, smiled, tears glistening in her eyes. Another student became an astronaut. Before his launch, he wrote her a letter. "From up here, Earth is one classroom. And we're all students of wonder. Thank you for teaching me to reach for the stars," literally. A small town in another country named a street after her. Not a monument. Just a path. But on both sides, children had painted their dreams on the walls. She visited, walked slowly down the path, hands grazing the stories, the colors, the lives. She met a girl with a stutter who now gave TED Talks. A boy who once couldn't spell now wrote novels. A teenager who had been mute after trauma, now taught theater. "The stage," he said, "gave me my voice back." In every corner of the world, her work had left seeds. And those seeds had grown into forests of change. Shade for the weary. Fruit for the hungry. Space for the wild and the wonderful. One evening, she sat by a fireplace, surrounded by young educators. They asked her for advice. She said, "Listen more than you speak. Love more than you judge. And never forget, every child carries a universe." A silence followed. Not heavy. Sacred. As if time itself had paused to honor the truth of those words. When her health began to decline, she moved to a quiet home in the hills. Birds sang at her window. Children visited on weekends. She painted. Wrote. Listened to music. And most of all, reflected. One night, as snow fell outside, she opened a box of letters. Read a few. Then looked out the window and whispered, it was worth it. In her final weeks, she asked not for flowers, but for stories. Former students sent recordings, messages, drawings. Nurses played them aloud each morning. Her room was filled with voices of lives she'd touched. Every word, a thank you. Every sound, a celebration. When she passed, the world paused. Not out of sorrow, but out of reverence. Tributes poured in. Schools held assemblies. Children lit candles. Governments declared days of learning. But the most meaningful tribute was this: millions of children around the world, standing taller, dreaming louder, loving deeper. And somewhere, under a tree, a group of children sat in a circle. One began, "Once upon a time, there was a woman who believed in us.